Hey guys, and welcome to a new video. Today, I want to make my last video in terms of Path of Exile for the 322 Ancestors League, and it's going to be a kind of like build guide or showcase of, in my opinion, the best and strongest Path of Exile character that you can play this season and probably going forward into the next seasons, and it is an Armour stacker slash Aura stacker Chieftain using Smite as the main ability. This is kind of a template character. This is the character I've been doing all the 700 Uber bosses on. This is the character that can do easy deathless, wave 30 simulacrums and stuff like that. This character is just insanely fun to play. Very fast, very tanky, a lot of like clearing and DPS. I think like in the current state with everything up with like Smite and everything, Berserk, I kind of reached like 1 billion DPS while having like I think over 800,000 EHP. Yeah, the character of choice here is a Chieftain. There is basically two versions of an Armour stacker. One is the Scion Transcendent version that I played before this one, and then I swapped over to the Chieftain version that is just maybe a little bit squishier than the Scion Transcendent version, but it is a lot faster and it also has more damage. It is basically kind of like a plug and play build where you can take like any kind of like melee skill, because we are using the original Sin Ring. That means that our ally damage is converted into chaos and nearby enemy chaos resistance is 0, so we don't have to worry about anything, what kind of elemental type or the monster resistance. We just ignore everything and it's going to be a lot of damage. There is just one big downside. As I said, I started this as a Scion Transcendent with Lightning Strike, and the problem is, even though you want to play Lightning Strike or Molten Strike or any other strike skill or something like that, the problem is you kind of still have to use Smite as your damage activator, just because Smite gives you an aura, basically a buff that is scaled with aura effect. So even if you're a Lightning Strike character, if you press Smite first, get the buff, and then hammer the Lightning Strike, your Lightning Strike will basically do like double or triple the damage that it would be doing without using Smite. So basically, that was just a bit of a wonky playstyle. If I know, hey, I need to run in, I need to use Smite, and then actually use my Lightning Strike. So as I said, that was like before that, and that's why I said, like, you know what, Smite is anyways a very strong and cool skill, especially now with Smite and stuff. Has a good clearing. Might be that Lightning Strike has a better clearing, but just the overall package of this like one button playstyle is kind of like the better way for me, right? So I haven't played PoE in like 2-3 weeks, so let me quickly see. I think we just take any Crimson Temple map. I don't even care. It's just like as a kind of like map showcase, so you see how the mapping looks like. I did do all the Uber bosses with this build, so if you check out my channel here for the bossing kind of like aspect, right, all of these like Uber bosses, whether it's like the Eater of Worlds, Searing Exarch, Uber Maven, Cortex, Uber Shaper, Uber Elder, and Saris, all of these basically videos have been made with the same characters, so you can see how the bossing on those characters looks like, because I did do always like one preview basically of one single Uber before I did the other 99. So basically, it's a straightforward character. I do have Berserk on my left click. I do have Molten Shell for like some bigger things, but I mean, this character is just like pretty stupid. Let's be honest. This character is actually like one of probably the most expensive characters that I've ever played, because I spent about 5 to 7 mirrors, and I cannot really say exactly, because I think it was about 7 mirrors when I started it, or at least like once I finished it, better said. But over the time, mirrors became like much more expensive, so I think the actual value might be somewhere about 5 mirror or maybe 4 mirror now, since like a mirror is like, I don't know, like 2-3 what is it, like 800 divine orbs by now. I don't know. I haven't like played PoE in a while, so I'm just trying to finish off this like build guide and just talk about the character if you plan to do something like that yourself. But as you see, as a melee build, the clearing speed is actually ridiculous. The damage is crazy. And this is like an all-around build. I could go deep delve with it. I had some viewers asking me for an owl carry on like depth. I don't know what it was, like 1500 or something. Absolutely no problem if I open my POB with the current in-game version that I have. Just the Smite hit alone is like over 500 million DPS, with a total of like probably close to 1 billion if I have like my Ancestor Protector up, and all the other stuff. I have 90 max res, I have over 300% movement speed thanks to Berserk and the Chaos Spirit gloves. So overall, as you see, the character is super fast. You kind of have to press your grace because it is a divine blessing here on the March of the Legion, which kind of sucks for a lot of people, but honestly, pressing one extra button every like 12 seconds, which basically gives you like so much tankiness. For example, I'm running here about, what is it, 681,000 armor, but if I use grace, it's like 6.5 million without anything else up, right? So I think like with the optimal setup, I was reaching about like 8.2 million armor, and my perfect POB that I made in the start was about 8.8. So I came very, very close to this, yeah, planned POB. And as I said, this character, absolute joy. So first of all, before we go into like this kind of like build portion of the video, I want to mention two people. One is BigDaddy. What was it? Shit, I kind of forgot. Shit. But this guy is playing like the Scion version a lot. Let me quickly see if I can pull this one up. What was it? BigDaddy. Transcendence. Scion. I should be able to find it. Yeah. Oh, it was just BigDaddy. Okay. This is the first guy that is playing a lot of like the Lightning Strike Transcendence. Basically, here you see videos, Death 5,000, Death 6,000 with this character. It is very tanky, but in my opinion, still, I personally prefer the Chieftain version more. And the Chieftain version is coming from SebK. Which is basically a guy that is just doing a lot of like armor stacking, and this guy just knows his stuff, and it's actually kind of crazy. I'm gonna link both of the channels in the description below, which basically served me as a kind of a template character. And because in the start, when I decided to do the Scion armor stacker, let me see, Extreme Transcendence. I had, back in the days, I think it was like Heist League or something, I had a very big obsession with the Transcendence Keystone on my Scion. So I did play this like in 3.12, it's like, what is it, like 10 leagues ago, basically a couple of years ago. I played a lot of like Transcendence Scion armor stacker. Maybe I was one of the first ones playing that with the replica Dream Feathers. But I tried to like, kind of replicate this build, and then I found out about the BigDaddy guy that basically developed the build. Not saying anything that, you know, like, hey, this is my build in the start and this is his build and whatnot. I'm just saying I saw his version of a modern new take on the Transcendence, and I basically rebuilt this character. But I personally don't like the aspect of Smite plus the Lightning Strike. As I said, I think this character is tankier. But then I found out SebK's Armor Stacker Chieftain, which just made like a lot more sense for me, because there's like more pros for me than cons based if you compare the Chieftain version to the Scion version. I ended up trying converting my Scion into the Chieftain version, and honestly, I don't regret a single day where I made the transition to the Chieftain, because this character, in my opinion, is just a lot stronger. So how do we start the gearing process? Basically, it is an armor stacker. It scales both grace and determination for getting all the armor values. I think evasion is kind of like stronger at this point, just because you're kind of like double dipping into armor with the Iron Reflex Keystone. So you're scaling both a lot of evasion, and then the evasion gets converted into armor, and then all the armor modifiers apply, and so on and so forth. The goal is to hit ridiculous amounts of armor, and then getting the damage out of the replica Dream Feathers. We have a line which say 1% increased attack damage per 450 armor. On top of that, we are scaling a shit ton of aura effect to boost our grace and determination to basically oblivion, while also stacking resistance. And the reason why we're stacking resistance and why Chieftain is so freaking strong with this is of the rework of the Chieftain. So if you take a look at the notes, this one is just like, if you go from like worst to best, basically, right? This one basically gives you a 7 link for your strike skills because it also has the level 30 Ancestor Call. So my 6 link is getting supported again by Ancestor Call, helping with the clear speed and everything. Then we have the, this one is kind of like, whatever, I don't know. This was like the more important part. But here is the important part. So, modifiers to fire resistance also apply to cold and lightning resistance at 50% of the value. Means, if I get 100 fire resistance on a gear, I'm also getting 50 cold and lightning resistance. And with the Valaco Storm's Embrace, modifiers to maximum fire resistance also apply to maximum cold and lightning resistance. Means, if I'm stacking a shit ton of maximum fire resistance, I'm getting the equivalent to cold and lightning. For example, in the comparison, why the Scion like falls a bit short on that one, you have to play the Scion version with the jewels here. In one hand, the Transcendence jewels and the Timeless jewel is giving you minus 15 max resistance, and then you have to use this other jewel. I forgot the name of it, but where you basically you only scale one single max resistance, get the other two, but you're still gonna get like minus resistance. I kind of forgot the name of it. I'm surely it was some Uber Boss loot. Let me quickly check. What was it? Searing Exarch? Oh god, Uber trash loot. I'm pretty sure it comes from the Uber Eater of Worlds, but I kind of forgot. This melding the flesh. I think melding the flesh it was. But in the end of the day, to trying to achieve what this single node is doing, you're losing like about like a lot of like maximum resistance, especially if you go at Transcendence, you lose like minus 19 max resistance. I did get the Scion up to like 82, 83 max res, plus having the Transcendence, which basically means that your armor applies to your elemental resistance, and we go 100% physical into elemental conversion. But at the end of the day, the character was slower and had less DPS than the Chieftain version. Let's forget about the Transcendence Scion version that I played before. Let's focus more about the Chieftain version, because this is basically the build of choice that I said is like the kind of like the best build I've ever played. So, what is this actually doing? Why do we stack so much resistance? As you see, I have like almost 900 fire resistance, like 660 cold, and about like 585 lightning resistance. What is this doing? Why don't I stop at like 150? And this is because of the chest, which is a grasping mail dropping from either Chayula or like, Chayula or the, what is it, like vendor recipe of breach rings. And this chest can have several modifiers that are unique to this chest. For example, armor is overcapped by fire resistance, and evasion rating is overcapped by cold resistance. These are two out of like a pool of like many modifiers that this chest can have. The problem here is, I did the mistake, I just bought any grasping mail and just chaos spammed for the modifiers that I was looking for, but I never hit one. And the problem is, the modifiers, you can, I think, roll like 1, 2, 3 of these special modifiers. There are prefixes, suffixes, and everything. They only appear if you identify the item. So if you pick up the item, or it drops naturally, or the vendor recipe and stuff, it will have them on. As soon as you use a Chaos Orb, you will never be able to get any of these modifiers back. And I think the Chiula version was the one that can roll these ones as fractured. So basically, you need to identify the right modifiers and then start crafting the suffixes, because both of these modifiers are prefixes. Here we have both prefixes. One is even fractured with an open prefix. So this was kind of like easier to do just because you had to finish these suffixes. Not saying it was cheap. I mirrored this chest. But this is like the kind of baseline, and they are insanely rare. I had these on live search for like 3-4 weeks, and I did not find a comparable one because it is so rare to hit those kind of things. There are some with like full prefixes where you could decide, do I want to buy that? Do I annul it off? Do I risk it for the biscuit? Or at some point, like, you know what, these perfectly mirrored chests do exist with the enchant and everything. It's probably easier and cheaper and faster to just farm a mirror and just mirror that thing. But this is the thing. Armor is increased by overcapped fire resistance. I have like a shit ton of fire resistance, and thanks to the Thessalic cleansing water, I'm also like, while stacking fire resistance, you're getting cold resistance and lightning. Forget about lightning, but cold resistance, which is also getting scaled by evasion rating, is overcapped by cold resistance. So it is an armor stacker with an aura stacker combined, because what we're doing is a lot of like aura stacking. Like all of the tattoos that I'm using here are all aura effect nodes. We do have all the clusters that give like a lot of like aura effect. We're using triple 1 passive voices with introspection for aura effect. I think I used this like 9 times or something like that. Or did I? Oh yeah, here's the third one. So I'm using 9 times introspection. I don't know how much aura effect I have in the end of the day. I mean, you can check it up with my PUB that is linked in the description below with the exact character that I'm currently playing in-game here. But as I said, it's about scaling your auras to the absolute extreme. For example, Grace here is level 35. We have the March of the Legions with a +5 modifier, double corrupted with a +1 Soccer Gems and +2 Aura Gems, giving it +8. And then we also have like, how many extra levels? 1 level global modifiers, which is basically from the Ashes of the Stars, as well as 5 levels from support because of an empower support that is also getting like boosted from the +1. So you're gonna get Grace to a ridiculous level, and then this stage it actually gives me about, what is it, 4,700 flat evasion, and if I use this, I'm like getting 10 times the armor value out of this. But this is basically coming then with the March of the Legion, giving you the Soccer Gems are supported by level 25 Divine Blessing. You can only have 1 blessing at a time, but this is basically when I run around, I do have to press Grace to get this. There is like a modifier here where you can do non-curse auras have 50% increased duration. I use that on my EK Ignite, which means that your Grace will then last like 20 seconds. But honestly, when you play a character like this, it's just like if you leap slam around or smite targets, you know, you just like every like 12 seconds, you press 1 extra button, and you clear the map so fast, so you do it like, I don't know, like 5-6 times per map. It is absolutely no problem. It just sounds kind of weird, same as like putting totems down, which is also kind of like shitty for melee characters. Oh, I always have to rely on my totems. But I can use the totems, but on this stage I have so freaking much damage that it doesn't really matter if I place my totems or not. Because as I said, who needs a billion DPS on this build? But it was just like so insanely fun to put this character together, develop it, and see how the build gets stronger for every single item I did add. The helmet is basically your kind of like best in slot helmet. These are the first time that I actually mirrored an item for a character of mine, because usually I don't do that because I'm not playing characters for long amounts of time to say like, hey, I'm gonna mirror items, I'm gonna pay the fee, and like literally 4 days later I'm re-rolling, so what did I pay the fee for, right? But since I knew this is gonna be the last character of the league for me, I decided to mirror those 2 items. So yeah, helmet wise, it's just like max levels here for aura set. I'm having here the Divergent Determination, Anger, Wrath, as well as a Discipline. Then here on the boots we have Berserk, Empower, Inspiration, and Grace. The Inspiration is basically to lower the mana cost of basically Grace, to actually be able to use that, because we don't really have a lot of mana left. For the weapons, as I said, Replica Dream Feathers with chance to fortify, and the other one has RT, Resolute Technique. Going into crit is not really that valuable. When I played the Sign, I also played Ally Overload, because, you know, with that amount of stacking, all the resistance and everything, it's not easy to get like crit multi on top of that. And RT is basically giving me the option to not care about my hit rating, about accuracy, about anything like that. And as I said, like, the damage is so really insane. It's actually crazy. On top of that, let me see where I have my Keystone. I think what did I use as my keystone tattoo? I kind of forgot. Damn it. Where's my keystones? Unwavering Stance. I kind of... Oh yeah, here. Precise Technique. This is something, since we are playing already with Resolute Technique and we cannot deal critical strikes, this is like a 40% more attack damage if accuracy rating is higher than maximum life. We're playing CI, I have 1 life, accuracy will always be higher, but this would be located over here, but saves a lot of points. And a lot of, like, points in this build is like kind of like insane, okay? So that's why I'm using one voice passives. That's why I'm level 100. It's like, when you play a character like that, level 100 is kind of like the minimum you kind of want to get, right? On top of like saving as many skill points as possible. And tattoos did give this build like a shit ton of damage and saved a shit ton of points, because without the tattoo you wouldn't necessarily go for that. But since we're able to get the tattoos, that was like an insane damage increase. On top of that, like the Timeless, the Brutal Restraint is basically just for aura effect, nothing too crazy over here. Good. In my weapons, I have like Leap Slam with Molten Shell and Item Rarity support. Oh wait, this is actually a joke. It used to be the Spear, but then I got the Corruption on my original scene with this Spear for my Balance of Terror Jewel. And that basically gives me like immune to curses or something like that. Forbidden Flesh, Forbidden Flame. Where is my Balance of Terror? Maybe over here. Immune to curses and inflict Wither. And Wither actually works with the original sin because just the enemy takes more chaos damage. It doesn't have to do anything with reducing the resistance. But that's the reason why we're using this spear. And as I said, before I had this spear gem, and then we made like some fun out of like some item rarity support and just tried to like trigger the support skill of 2% chance to for a coin shower and kill, but I think I've never hit that because I was just running around and killing monsters with Leap Slam and tried to get like the golden shower kind of thing. Good. On the offhand, Poacher's Mark, Mark on hit support, and the Phantasmal Ancestral Protector for all the attack speed. Then we have the skill gem that has so many modifiers that you cannot even get it on one screen, which is the what is it? The Phantasmal Val Smite, Multi-Strike, ally damage with attacks, Inspiration, Void Manipulation, as well as ally focus, which works with the original sin because we are first getting all the damage multipliers on our Smite and then like convert everything into the chaos damage. Then on the gloves, Purity of Fire, Defiance Banner, Purity of Elements, and Haze giving us the ailment immunity, giving us a shit ton of max fire resistance, and then is getting applied to cold and lightning resistance thanks to the Valako Storm's Embrace key stone over here. Then Mage Blood, and then like Flask, Taste of Hate, Midnight Flask, Basalt Flask, Quicksilver, as well as a Ruby Flask. When I'm actually bossing, this is like my mapping setup with the Quicksilver Flask, but I do have this one over here, a Jade Flask. I think this is actually where the armor was missing before. So here I have 1 million, and now it's like 7.8 million with a Grace Up. This is like my bossing setup because I don't need that much movement speed when doing like Uber bosses, but for mapping, I'm swapping out the Jade for a Quicksilver to have like a lot more movement speed on that. As I said, let's take a look at the skill tree real quick. The thing is, like, all the small nodes are increased aura effect. Then we have like some frenzy charges. We have iron reflexes. We have 111 passive voices. All of these with increased effect, introspection, res, and all res. As I said, the more resistance, the more damage, the more armor, the more everything, right? And we want to get as much resistance as possible overcapped, so our grasping mail modifiers with the increased fire resistance like armor and evasion by fire and cold res is scaling absolutely ridiculous. Then we have something like Divine Shield, which is pretty nice. As I said, Brutal Restraint, Forbidden Flame Flash with the Unbreakable. This is something we can actually talk a little bit about. This is like the mini Transcendence for the Chieftain. So what Unbreakable is doing is saying armor from a quick body armor is doubled, as well as 8% off armor applies to fire, cold, and lightning damage taken from hits. This is kind of like, as I said, a mini Transcendence built into the Chieftain, giving this character even more tankiness. As you see over here, like 730,000 EHP, about 240,000 against physical hit. I could get to 100%, but I don't think it's actually necessary. There is not a lot of things that can actually kill this build. The only thing that would be in my current state would be degens. And you can basically decide now, hey, do I want to run the KM Spirit for a very insane rage up time, or do I want to be kind of like out-sustaining all the dots in the game, right? Which you can do, but honestly, I play softcore. This build doesn't really die a lot. I have like, I don't know how much playtime do I have on this character. It's like 6 days, 5 hours. And how many deaths do I have? 244 in total from starting the build until like finishing it. I had several deaths on the Uber bosses when it comes to like, yeah, certain phases. I can tank all the magma balls, for example, on the Searing Exarch. But as I said, there hasn't been a lot of deaths that I had when it comes to like degen, but you could encounter like how you say, forget about that if you don't play with the KM Spirit. But KM Spirit, the Rage, the Berserk gives you so much speed and damage and tankiness for like hits and stuff that I feel like I'm super fine with dying sometimes to a nasty like degen. It doesn't really is too crazy because we do have a lot of like regen, or at least like max resistance, so the dots are getting like like a lot of like damage reduction, but they still hurt, especially since we don't really have a lot of things to sustain because we have no regen, right? But there is one thing that you could do. What I did for the most time was playing with Wicked Ward, so our energy shield recharge is not interrupted. So if I get hit, if I'm like degenning and stuff like that, I can just run around, and as soon as my recharge kicks in, I can basically out-sustain everything again. But if this doesn't happen, if I cannot recharge because of incoming damage and stuff, then you can basically die. But as I said, it's like so rare that this actually happens that I consider it. Yeah, I still like to play with the KM Spirit more just because of all the speed and the damage that I get. But if you would be able or want to pull this build off in like hardcore, then maybe not doing KM Spirit and actually get all the regen, because all of the aura effect and everything, you will have like a lot of yeah, regen and self-sustain on top of that. Good. I don't know what else to talk about the build besides being like really expensive. This is like one of the final end game versions of a build, and honestly I've played a lot of builds throughout the several leagues that I played, or yeah, this is my 22nd league, and honestly I have never played a build stronger than this one. This is just overall package, no joke, in my opinion, the strongest build in the game, and I really enjoyed it. If you have a lot of currency, then feel free to replicate the build. Part of the building link is in the description below. Make sure to check out SebK's channel as well as BigDaddy's channel if you want to see the Transcendent Lightning Strike version or further modifications to the Armour stacker. A lot of people will now ask about the transmog. The thing is, like, the microtransactions, they are legacy. This was the first supported pack that I ever bought. It's the Kitaver supported pack from 3.0 with the Kitava helmet, body armor, gloves, as well as the boots with the blood-soaked character effect. This is what the makes the character look like, kind of like crazy, with double Colossus sword with incinerator weapon effect. And I think this is like, overall, I think the best looking MTX that you can use on a melee character. And as I said, it was just a very fun, or at least for me, a joy to play this build. Had a lot of fun, and can definitely recommend if you have the currencies for that. I think on this kind of like stage of the build, investment wise, you should be able to get all the necessary informations that you need, or that I didn't explain in the video well enough, in the path of building link in the description. If you have any further questions, then feel free to use the comment sections and ask those questions. Now I'm basically done with the league entirely, and I'm looking already forward to the next league. And I think I'm going to do a little bit of a different turn next league, because I kind of like play the leagues every time the same way. And I think next league I want to like try to focus on 2 characters for league start, which is one gonna be like probably a magic finder for mapping, and an armor stacker like this version for farming simulacrums and make like early currency. But I would not recommend starting this build with less than like 50 to 100 divines. This is like, you probably can set it up, but it's still not going to be very good. But SebK, for example, league started the build, or basically transitioned to the build very early without mage, but with all these things, farming simulacrum, making shit tons of currency, and started crafting all the mirror tier items. And I think he has like a lot of videos on his like early progression, as well as crafting videos. So if you want to check his channel out, feel free to do so to get some more or better understanding what is necessary early on. I started the build with like 2 or 3 mirrors investment, and it was like an okay build, but not for the kind of like price. But once I invested more and more, I said like, holy shit, this build is actually freaking insane. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.